So welcome. I'm Tanya Smith, and this is Stream Like a Boss TV. My question for you is, are you tired of constantly brainstorming new content ideas and feeling overwhelmed by the endless creation cycle? I mean, look, all of us have been there. And in today's episode, I'm going to reveal just how you can take a single live stream and turn it into multiple forms of content. Now, we've talked about this in different ways and with a different focus than what we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight, I'm going to share with you a framework. So a 3-part or 3-pillar framework, if you will, that you can use for each and every single live stream. Or if you're doing a video podcast, you can apply it to that. Videos on demand, all that you do. I think that these 3 pillars will work for you. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all the places. So wherever you are, hello and good evening or good morning, depending on where you are, because I know we have some folks overseas. So let's kick things off with a quick question. I'm going to ask you this. What do you think is your biggest struggle when it comes to content creation? Is it finding the time to create, or is it coming up with ideas? So if it's finding the time to create, I want you to find a clock or watch emoji. And if it is coming up with ideas, I want you to find the light bulb emoji and pop that into the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and prepare us for some interesting content. And I almost forgot. I need to kick this thing off by sharing a little bit of an update about Facebook Live, Facebook specifically, because they've made a decision recently, and let's just say there's been a lot of conversation about it. And so I want to walk you through some of the things, some of the highlights that I found about that, and then we will dive into tonight's content topic. Okay. So if you don't know what to do next, here's what you do. You go grab yourself a notepad and a pen, get your favorite drink of hydration, whatever that might be. And on the other side of this very short video, we're going to dive all in. I'll start with the Facebook Live news, okay?
Welcome to Stream Like a Boss TV, the podcast, your on-the-go version of our popular live stream show. Tanya Smith will be your guide to getting the most out of video and other cutting-edge digital marketing strategies that transform crickets into clients and cash. Tune in as we dive into practical tips, expert interviews, and actionable insights to grow your business online. Let's start the show.
I'm going to scoot right on over here to this job aid and make sure that I walk you through this. It's a cheat sheet that I made that will walk you through some of the things. So the part where I was muted because I was shifting and creating scenes right before this is that Facebook has made a decision to delete videos after they're 30 days old. And so there's been a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? So a lot of people who have been a little, I guess I'll say frustrated or trying to figure out, well, what's my next thing and what should I do and how do I handle this? And so I do want to talk to you a little bit about the whole Facebook Live thing just for a few minutes, and then we're going to dive into our other thing. Because the fact is, and this is what I was saying when I was muted, is that the same thing I'm going to tell you now, I would have told you even if they'd never made this change. And that is this: you don't own content on Facebook. You need to be keeping, if you haven't put hashtag newbie or hashtag OG in the comments, go ahead and do that. But you do need to be keeping track of your own content in your own spaces. Keep it on your own real estate. Now, another option, of course, is to also broadcast on places like YouTube. So let me walk you through what I've got on this little cheat sheet so you'll see what I'm talking about. But they did make this announcement, and apparently it's already in effect because some people are out actually getting notifications now. I thought that it was not going to be into effect until the end of the month, but I'm hearing from some folks that they're already seeing alerts. One of the things that you'll notice is that you're going to need to, if you're only using Facebook Live now, okay, if you're only using Facebook Live, you want to consider downloading that video from Facebook to your own system before the 30 days is up, because otherwise it's auto deleted. Okay. Auto deleted. Again, I don't consider Facebook to be a storage space for me. Now, keeping in mind, I've been doing Facebook Lives for a long time, and some of you have too. Whether you're in a page, a profile, or a group, apparently this applies. Now, their original announcement, however, did not say that. Their original announcement didn't talk about groups at all. So I was actually called to task on that because I was making an assumption based on the fact that they omitted groups in the announcement itself, but someone actually popped up or showed me a pop-up on their screen that had groups as well. So here's the thing. Don't fret. If you're someone who has a lot of content on Facebook, first of all, you should be keeping copies or the original content on your own space anyway. You need to do that. But if you haven't thought about your strategy moving forward, one of the things you want to think about is, do I need to download the live and then upload it back in there? Because they're not talking about deleting uploaded videos in media. What they're suggesting is that auto deletion will occur for your live streams. So it won't stay up after 30 days. There's a couple of things actually that they mentioned. Let me pull this PDF up again real quick. One is that you'll be able to download it, and you should download it within the 30-day period. I always automatically download my live streams anyway. So Ecamm Live, which is what I'm using to broadcast this, automatically saves a copy to my local computer. And if you have an SD drive or a storage drive or anything like that, and if you're using an external drive for your videos, that's probably a good idea as well, because frankly, videos take up a lot of space. But I always keep a copy. I always download it to my own system. So think about that if that's not something you've been doing. Secondly, you will have the ability, according to them, they're going to have some type of bulk download tool that they'll make available. I don't know details about that. There's a bunch of different, people contemplating what that means, but there's supposed to be some type of bulk download tool that will be available to you in the case that you have like this long-standing group or something like that, where you have to now go and download all these videos because you want to save them from former challenges or other things you've done. So be looking for that, but also think about your own personal backup plan. This does apply to pages, profiles, and groups, as I've said. And my most important notice to you is that you really do need to consider your own strategy. Like, what am I going to do next? If you haven't been broadcasting on YouTube, my question for you is, why not? If you're doing lives on Facebook, if you're doing lives on LinkedIn for that matter, you might as well be doing them on YouTube as well. I know that it's a little bit more difficult in some people's minds, right? It's difficult to really have success when it comes to numbers and when it comes to getting views and subscribers. It's a little bit more complex. I do agree with that, but it's doable and it just makes sense because YouTube itself is a search engine. So why not have your content out there regardless of whether you have 10,000 followers or 10? Okay, let me see if people have questions on that, and then we'll dive into the other part of this content. But I did want to bring that up because I know it keeps coming up. Let's see what we got. Let's see. We got our newbie there. Yeah, that scene was muted. It was. Lou in the house. What's up, sir? I love to see my brother in video there. Gary Jones Jr., greetings to you as well. Let me see if anyone has questions. Okay, nobody has specifically questions. Yvette C. Lee, good to see you. Facebook is rented land. Yes. Okay, so what Chris said, that's facts. And really, all of these spaces are rented land, right? Thank goodness I have them all sleeping peacefully already in my Ecamm Recordings cave. Good. That's super smart, and that's what we need to be doing anyway. We need to figure out, if you haven't figured this out already, figure out how you can actually keep your own content where you want it to be. So I use several different tools. One of the spaces that I use right now is a hosting platform called Adilo, Adilo. But I've also used bunny.net. I've used a number of different spaces to actually house my videos where I want them to be able to be embedded and displayed on other platforms. But I also do have a pretty significant volume in my hard drive, right? Because I like keeping my own stuff. I want to own my content. So speaking of owning your content, let's start talking about the tips that I want to share with you on the 3 pillars of repurposing. That's what we're going to focus on tonight, is 3 pillars of repurposing. And I am checking for comments. And look, Chris Stone said the same thing. He said, storage is cheap. Losing your content is expensive. Exactly. That's exactly right. Okay. So 3 pillars of repurposing. Let's get into it. We want to talk a little bit about this whole idea. I know Lou has so many hard drives. Me too. It's crazy. But we own our stuff, right? We know where things are. I'm going to give you the 3 steps that we're going to walk through, and then I'm going to walk you through them. And knowing me, I probably will pull up a couple of demos to show you some of this as well. But here's the 3 steps. The first one is you want to make sure that you go from long form to short form. So you're creating long form with short form content in mind. So as you're considering your repurposing strategy, which is what we're talking about, long form to short form is the first principle or pillar. The second pillar I want to focus on is cross-platform sharing. So how are you maximizing your reach by tailoring the content for each platform? And then the third is let's keep it lean and evergreen. Evergreen means that you're creating reusable content, which we'll get into in just a second, that can keep driving traffic long after your live stream is over. And so concentrating time on creating and putting together content that will last and still be meaningful a year from now is going to be part of your repurposing strategy as well. Okay. All right. So we're going to dive into point number 1. And if you do have questions, I want you to pop those into the chat. As always, I'm looking for those. If you have a question, try to start it with a Q so that I can come back and grab it real quick as we go through our points. Okay. So here's point number 1, long form to short form. So I want you to be thinking about this as your pillar number 1. This is about extracting bite size, or what I like to say is snack size pieces, so that you can promote these pieces onto spaces like social media. Okay. When you're thinking about using your long form content, the question is, what do you mean, Tanya? Like, how will I use this? How will I leverage this long form content? Well, my answer is that you're going to identify key moments inside of that content that can be converted into short clips. So why would we want to do that? There's a couple of things that we want to do. And here's where I may end up doing a little bit of a demo if you have questions about it. Yeah, Yvette, I see your note. That's where I'm short in repurposing. Let me explain why this is important to think about long form to short form. One of the reasons why this is so important for you is because we do not have an infinite amount of time. We have finite time, right? We only have a certain number of hours per day, per week, per year, and we're not even guaranteed all of those. So when you're thinking about making the most of your time, and this is something I think about all the time with all the things that I juggle, I'm thinking about, okay, how can I really go all in and show value and put quality and time into one piece of content that then continues to work for me while I'm doing other things, such as serving my clients or working in my corporate role or dealing with my family or all the things that we have to do. Okay. So when you're thinking long form to short form, the reason why I'm just not and I know that there are people that build whole businesses on short form content. I get it. In fact, I will tell you all this. If you go back in time, in my timeline, if you look up snack size marketing, I even was interviewed on John Lee Dumas's podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, as the snack size marketing content specialist. That was my coaching focus was short form, okay, years ago. But here's where I think that can fall short. After a while, you realize that you have to create an abundance of short form content if you want to be successful. Like, you have to do this on an ongoing basis. And frankly, I just don't want to work that hard. Actually, I work pretty hard, but I like breaks too. And I don't want my days and nights to be filled with being on video. It's facts. I'm just saying it. And if you're feeling me on this, I want you to put a raise hand emoji into the chat, because we have other things to do, like live. So I am a big supporter of focusing on the long form from which I can build the short form content. Because long form equals longevity. Long form is where people who really want to invest with you and want to be in your space, that's where they're paying attention, and they're staying and they're consuming that information because they felt that it was valuable enough to stay. I want more of those type of people. And I want to I want to optimize the time that I have spent creating that content. So when you are creating the long form content, you're going to think about ways to extract it into micro content or snack size content. And here's one of the things that you can think about. So for instance, when I created the live stream for tonight, as I do every week when I'm on, I sit down and I think about parts and segments. Okay. So I think about, wait a minute, there's going to be a segment in this live stream where I'm going to talk about Facebook Live. I'm going to keep that clean, and that segment's going to be focused on that. Then there's going to be a segment where I'm going to talk about message point number 1, which is what we're doing right now. Then I'm going to talk about message point number 2, so on and so forth, right? So I'm leveraging building blocks to create the full live stream, 45 minutes to an hour. And each of those building blocks can become its own form of micro content. So while I'm delivering it, like this long stretch of time, this 45 minutes to 60 minutes, what I've done is I've planned ahead to say, okay, I'm going to have these smaller segments that I can now take apart or get help taking apart to turn into clips that can stand alone by themselves. Okay. So some of that can become vertical clips that can turn into reels and shorts and all of those other things. And you want to think about, if you're creating a live stream like what I have, you see like my different animations and graphics and all these fun things, right? If I have a bunch of things flying across the screen, that might make it more difficult to really piecemeal it. And so one of the things that we get to do, because we use Ecamm Live, is I'm creating isolated tracks. ISOs is what we call them, okay? Which means that while I'm recording this live stream, not only am I getting the beautiful version that you see with all the graphics, but I'm also at the same time simultaneously recording an isolated track that has no graphics. It's just me on camera. And if I were using camera B and camera C, which I'm not going to do tonight, then it would be getting those tracks too, which now can then become its own content because I don't have things flying across the screen, across my face. I don't have to cut things off in order to make a clean reel or a vertical clip. I hope if this is making sense to you, and if you're getting anything from this, give me some indication in the chat. I want to know. Okay, a second way within this long form to short form thing, second way that we can tear this apart is by creating quotes and sound bites. So my dear friend, RK3, Robert Kennedy III, not the other guy, but RK3, that is the live streamer and speaker author. He talked about this on one of the live streams we did not too long ago about sound bites. And I do the same. There are certain phrases and sentences and things that I'm going to say throughout my live stream where I have programmed myself to make sure I say it a certain way so that that saying, that phrase becomes a sound bite. And that then can be pulled into image quotes, that can be pulled into audio clips. It can be pulled into any type of content you want it to be, but you're pulling out these segments because you have planned ahead that you're going to make sure you position and plant seeds by saying the certain phrases. Another thing that you can do with your live stream, and this is something, Chris Stone, I know, goodness, don't you get on me. But I will say this, because Chris was reminding me that the other day, he was like, I need more B-roll, Tanya. I need more B-roll. For those of you who don't know what B-roll is, so B-roll, I guess the simplest way to explain it would be behind the scenes, right? So it would be, for instance, I have a camera set up that is recording me as I am doing my live stream right now. There's a camera that's in the background that you can't see, that is checking out like all my different monitors, and it's, you know, kind of scrolling and seeing as I move, it's moving. And that is a behind the scenes type of clip that can now be used and added into the other content that is a part of the official live stream to make it even more powerful, to enhance it. So there are so many different ways. So basically an easy way that you could do this would be to even record yourself in your preparation mode for your stream, or to record what you do after the fact. Like as you're breaking things down, as you're turning your studio on and off, all of those things, that can become, you know, behind the scenes moments. If you're talking to your producer and you're, you know, wrapping up how things are going to go next or who your guest is going to be next week, and you just have this footage of that taking place, and maybe it's not catching sound, but it is catching the visual of this thing happening. People love behind the scenes. They love to see, look, y'all know the story, The Wizard of Oz. Everybody's watching what is it called? The movie right now that's out there, Wicked. We all want to see what's behind the whiz, right? We want to see what's behind the screen. And so that is really enticing. It's interesting. It's engaging. And that can also become repurposed content or part of the repurposed content that you're creating. Let me pull up some comments before we go to the next step. And let's see what we got. Think you just made a note to switch to ISO recordings? Yes, ma'am. It sure will make your life easier, I promise. Opus Pro doesn't do well for me. Yeah, Roy, at first I thought it did too, but now not so much. It's not my favorite anymore. And I do have a couple of things to share about that too. Let's see. Yvette said that's where she's short, is in repurposing, but you won't be after tonight because we're giving you some tips. RK3 is amazing at sound bites. He sure is. He demonstrated how he does it with ChatGPT on our interview with him. So great. He is amazing with that. I'm telling you. Let's see. I agree. I've been trying to figure out how to start my podcast, and it's repurposing what I've done already. Absolutely, you can do that. I'm going to start recording my songs, playing the keys and vocal. Yeah. Okay. So that itself can become a clip as well. So yes, point number one is, as you're thinking about the pillars of repurposing for your own strategy, considering how you can go from long form to short form. So starting with the long form and having short form in mind. Here's point number two. Point number two, pillar number two of your process for repurposing is going to be cross-platform sharing. Cross-platform sharing. So this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, is trying to post the same content on every platform without tweaking it a little bit. And so I have done the same thing. I'm not going to lie. Like I get lazy, and I won't even say lazy. I just get pushed for time sometimes, and I will post the same content in different spaces. So it's not a cardinal sin, but it's not going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. What you want to be thinking about is, how can I create content that's going to be appropriate for each platform, right? So as you're thinking about, for instance, YouTube, one of the things that I found early on is that my highly produced vertical clips don't always do so well on YouTube Shorts. The ones that do better for Shorts, and actually for several of the spaces, including TikTok, sometimes are just me popping on camera and talking to the camera, right? So popping on my phone and having a conversation. But I do have opportunities as well to have some of the produced clips to do well. It just depends on the topic that I'm talking about. But you want to be intentional and purposeful about what kind of content you're putting in what space. So for instance, LinkedIn doesn't do so great with my produced vertical clips. It just doesn't for me. What I do know does well there still are carousels, and again, some short videos where I am specifically talking to the camera and not necessarily doing like a live stream that's been produced, right? So repurposing some of the takeaways into a list post would work really well. And let me give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So I've been experimenting with this. And what I'm finding is that my vertical clips on LinkedIn do less well than when I actually take my live stream, shorten it and condense it, turn it into a newsletter, and then share my newsletter on LinkedIn. Same doggone content, but it does so much better. Like I get far more likes and reactions and comments on the newsletter format. So think about the format in which you are repurposing your content so that it fits where you are placing it. When we talk about cross-platform sharing, that's one of the ones that sometimes I miss the mark, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm sharing it with you so that you too can think about, does it make sense for me to put this same content on every space? Or do I need to consider, formatting it a different way for LinkedIn versus for YouTube versus for Instagram versus for TikTok? Because it's all still coming from that long form content, that video podcast or live stream you created. It's just in a different form that's going to be more consumed by the people that are in that specific audience, because literally the audiences just behave differently on each of those spaces. They just do. So you'll need to experiment with that and see what works for you. I'm in the process of experimenting now, but I am definitely seeing some clear markers and signs of certain types of content doing better on certain platforms. Okay. And one of the things you can do is you can resize your content, by the way, by using platforms like Descript or CapCut or Canva. So even if you have like this horizontal size like I have right now, if you want to turn something into a vertical or a square version, or portrait size, whatever, you can do so easily with any of those tools. So that's something to mention as well. Let me take a quick look at comments. I see some folks. My pugs get way more views than me. I know. Hey, Lou, you're not joking, right? Because I did a little video the other day with Coda. I was kind of complaining about Coda because he was cutting up. But it ended up doing very well in my stories, which, by the way, don't forget about stories. Don't sleep on stories, because what I have also noticed is that some of the vertical clips that we create, when used on stories, they do better than they do as a reel, which I'm like, But again, that's about experimenting and seeing what's working for you. But yeah, animals, people love pets. People love babies. So if you authentically have a reason to add, components and elements into your videos that are going to help people to really engage and interact, by all means do it. But don't go out and buy, or have stock photos of somebody else's dog that's not yours, that you can't speak about when somebody meets you and they're like, hey, I thought you had a pug. And you're like, yeah, I don't have dogs. Right? So be for real. Let's see. Stephanie Treasure is in the house live. Good to see you, ma'am. It's good to see you. Let me see. There's a question that is coming up before we go into number 3. So let me pop this up real fast for her. How's Substack going? Are you repurposing there? That's an excellent question, Lou. So I will tell you that I am repurposing as well over on Substack. I am right now kind of in a little bit of a quandary because I'm trying to decide, is it worth it for me? Okay, because it might be worth it for you. So I don't want to talk you out of it, but I'm trying to decide if that is truly the space for me. Now, what I see a lot of over in Substack is that there are quite a few people that talk about Substack. Hey, here's how you can be successful on Substack. Hey, here's how you grow your followers on Substack. So those people are doing really well because they're talking about how to do well on Substack. I also see a lot of political commentary, which I do follow because I am very engaged given my family ties, right? But I want to see more content like what I create and what others who are in the field, like many of you, I want to see more of your content do well. And I'm not so sure yet that I'm seeing that consistently do well. Not yet. Maybe there's opportunity for growth because they just started adding the live streaming feature, and there's other features that they give you the ability to leverage. But is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know. I'm not getting that yet from it. But I haven't been on there for the full 90 days. I'm doing a 90-day experiment, y'all. So towards the end of the 90 days, then I'll share again some feedback. But that's just my thought. This is a great question as well. Let me answer this from Lou. Can you go live to Substack from Ecamm yet? No, not quite. And part of it is because they have yet to give you the feature or the ability to be able to use RTMP URL. So we can't use links yet. From what I have access to, all that I'm able to do is to go live from my phone. So you can only go on your mobile phone. Now, something new recently that they added, so maybe they'll be adding more soon, I don't know. But within the last couple of weeks, they did add the ability for you to be able to view a live stream on desktop. But if you're the person that's recording the live stream, right now you have to do that from the Substack mobile app. So when you go into the app, there's a little plus sign at the bottom right corner. You have to have a certain number of subscribers. I think it's something like 10. It's a small number, but you have to get approved. And when you're approved, you click the plus sign and then you can go live. So what I have been doing is I use that space. I've thought about some other ideas, but right now I am still broadcasting like in my same studio setting for the most part, but I have a tripod that's a little bit over here, and I just have it recording me, right? So I can still take advantage of my lighting and all those other things. But you can do your lives from your mobile phone, of course, from anywhere. It's just a matter of thinking of what your strategy is going to be. I have had some success with live streams, Lou. So if you are considering doing that, when I say success, this is what I mean specifically. When I go live, instantly, within a few minutes, I will have an audience. I don't know if that's because I already have kind of, I've got an audience that I've been building and people that see me on other spaces or what. But for instance, the other day I did one, and within the first 10 minutes, I had 9 people that joined the stream, which was pretty good, especially for somebody who's just starting to build there. So I think there's possibility. I just need more testing. Yep. When it comes to repurposing, it is about testing. It is about as we said, cross-platform sharing, which means, and that was point number 2, which means we are experimenting to figure out like what is the best content format for each of the spaces where I want to play. Because all of them will not be the same. They just won't. Okay. And here's number 3. Point number 3. Keep it lean and evergreen. Lean and green. Now, what do I mean when I say this? This is what I mean. I mean that when you are creating your content for purposes of repurposing, another thing I want you to really consider is that you're creating content that will live long after your stream ends. So you can turn your live stream transcripts into a detailed blog post. Right? And that blog post can live on your own. Remember, we talked about your own real estate. This is on your own website, your own real estate. And you can still leverage the full video if you want to do that, which is something that I do. And share that so that you get the benefits of search engine optimization. Now, blogging itself has changed. There's definitely a change in the wind change when it comes to blogging. So I don't want to just make it about blogs, but remember I mentioned also the newsletter format. If you're thinking about doing a LinkedIn newsletter, or if you're using a platform like Beehive or even Substack, you can certainly leverage that video. And that is something I am doing. So Lou, I know you have another question that I'm going to answer in a minute, but that is something that I am doing as well. So my video that I do tonight will be repurposed into a video podcast that gets put out on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on Amazon Podcast, and it will be on Substack as well in a form of an article plus the video. I can also convert that same information and content that I'm sharing in the live stream into a multi-point email where I'm recapping. Here's some action items that you can take away from what we talked about in this past week's live stream. You can turn this into a mind map. You can turn it into, I'm using something called Sketch Wow. I don't know if any of you have been using that, but I started learning and teaching myself how to use that because I just think it's fun. It's not because it's super strategic, but that is something that I use to create this. So when I shared with you the PDF earlier, and I can actually animate this and use different templates and create different types of looks for the content that I'm creating, which I think is really cool. I think that that's an easy way to capture people who are visual learners versus people who want to read everything. So now you can have your content be in all the formats. It could be in this video form. It could be just audio only. It could be in a mind map, or it could be in, a text article. It's whatever you choose. And it opens up doors for people to be able to consume your information and your knowledge and expertise in different ways, in the way they choose. And that is super important. So when I talk about the evergreen cycle, what I'm saying is you want to think about, how can I repurpose content that has long lasting effects so that if somebody runs across that thing later on, maybe I turned it into a lead magnet or some type of PDF guide. If somebody comes and they consume that information 3 months from now, is it still relevant? This can be difficult depending on your niche now, okay? Because some of you may be in the field in space of AI content generation, and AI itself is changing all the time. It just continues to advance. And so if you've put together a course and you're telling people how to do things, next week, those instructions might be different. That's not necessarily evergreen. What would be more evergreen would be the concepts behind what they're doing. So when I teach concepts like I'm doing tonight, the concepts I'm teaching you right now will be evergreen. I believe that your content strategy, yes, it can morph and be different next year, But for the most part, the things I'm suggesting and saying to you are things that will hold true long after I'm done with this stream. And I'm intentional about thinking through what can I put out that will do that, which is why I don't necessarily always encourage you to create calls to action that might end up expiring. So if somebody comes and they watch this video a year from now or 2 months from now, even though I'm going to share with you information about what I have coming up, I don't want to focus too much on it because I want to make sure that if I need to pivot and if this class is now no longer something I teach, when somebody comes to watch this video, I'm not just talking about the class that's happening March 10th, because March 10th is long gone. March 10th of 2025 is gone and they missed it. So think about how to focus on evergreen concepts and ideas in your content, and that will also help with repurposing. Let me ask you this. Which of the ideas that I've shared with you so far tonight, the 3 ideas, resonates with you the most? You can type in 1, 2, or 3. So 1.1 was this, the whole idea of the pillar of long form to short form. Point number 2, pillar number 2 is cross-platform sharing. Did you get more ideas and nuggets out of that? And pillar number 3 was keeping it lean and evergreen. Which of those do you feel made the most impact for you so far tonight? I'm curious. I want to know if any of those really kind of struck a tone with you and gave you some golden nuggets to take away. All right. Now, let me go ahead and answer. There was another question that I had in here about Lou is doing this. I'm putting my podcast, your past podcast, on Substack. Yes, absolutely. That's an excellent way to repurpose. Look, Danny Marie, you are never late to the party. You are always on time. Thank you. This is amazing, implementable content. I love it. I love to create actionable content, something that you can walk away with. Lou said number 2 was what has made the most impact for him tonight. Yvette said number 1. Danny Marie said 3. Love it. Love it. Tech Troublemaker said evergreen. Just Tornado said, in the beginning, I would have said 1, but after the full list, it is 3 for me. I love it. Yes. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I'm glad that this has been helpful. Now, let me share with you what I'm about to do. This is one of the ways that you can go about also planning ahead for your live stream. You can create a segment where you recap all of your ideas in a 30 to 60 second moment, right? And so that's what I'm going to do for you right now. I'm demonstrating how to repurpose. So we're going to talk about point 1. Point 1 was long form to short form. So the concept here, this pillar is about the idea that you're going to always think in terms of starting with the long form first and putting your quality and effort into creating a good, solid, long form piece of content with the intention to go short form. Point number 2 was about cross-platform sharing, and we talked about the idea that you want to have in mind that as you repurpose each of your, all of the different segments that are in your long-form content, you're keeping in mind the platforms where you will be distributing this content so that as you consider each of those contents in their unique way that they like to consume information, the audiences in each of those spaces, that content is a fit. And point number 3, when we talked about keeping it lean and evergreen, is the idea that you want to make sure you're considering in some of your content, if not most of your content, that you are going to talk about concepts that will be still relevant long after the video itself has been done. Those were our 3 points. And so now I can take that little short segment and that can become itself a repurposed piece of content. See how I did that? All righty, folks. If you don't have questions, I'm checking to see if anybody has additional questions to ask. If there's anything that is just like blowing your mind, if you really enjoyed tonight, definitely make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow, and let us know what you thought about this video, because I want to make sure that I'm sharing with you actionable content, as someone said in the chat. And I also want to make sure that I continue to deliver on topics that are, that matter to you, Thank you, Lou. I appreciate it. Let me also do this. For those of you who do not know, I am going to be doing a repurposing challenge in the month of March. I believe the date is March 10th. We're getting ready to start sending out content and information about this to our community. So over the weekend, I'll be letting my Stream Bosses Academy members see it first, so that they can sign up first. But then next week, I will make it available to the public. It's called the Live Stream Multiplier Method Challenge. And we're going to teach you over a 3-day period how to really just like go all in on breaking down your content. And the really cool thing about this is that it is super affordable to participate in the challenge the first time, especially because the very first time that we launch it will be in March of 2025. And because of that, I'm going to have a very special rate. If you want to get in, now's going to be the time for you to get in. In order for you to know when we're going to release and reveal this information, I strongly suggest that you go over to streamlikeaboss.tv and get signed up. If you haven't taken our quiz, here's a way for you to be able to do that. Streamlikeaboss.tv, and this is the quiz link. Or you can just go to streamlikeaboss.tv/quiz, and you'll find the information there to go ahead and go through our Discover Your Video Vibe quiz and learn what your personality has to do with your live streaming success. So this is a good way to get on my email list and to know what's happening when we release everything next week. And of course, I'm going to be sharing in next week's live stream about it too. But don't miss out, because I'm going to keep it limited in the number of seats for people who are going to join the challenge, because I love intimate communities and I just get to do more personally with you when we have small groups. So just giving you that heads up to make sure to go ahead and get on the list. All righty, folks. Again, it has been my pleasure, as always, to be with you. Thank you. Yes, Tornado, if you took it yesterday, you are officially on the list. So you will know. You will be one of the first to know about it. I'm excited about it because it's going to be fun, and I'm actually teaching you some of the very tools and techniques that I use to get maximum value out of every piece of content that I create. All righty, folks, it's been my pleasure, as I mentioned, to serve you tonight in this way. I hope and pray that you have a blessed and abundantly blessed week and weekend. And if I can help you further, please look me up. Go to streamlikeaboss.tv and definitely make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss a show.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stream Like a Boss TV, the podcast. We hope you found today's insights valuable and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. To catch the full visual experience, head over to streamlikeaboss.tv. See you next time in the stream.